Salutations, my spicy little scoundrels. We're excited to have you back for another episode of MB2 Underground. I am Sarah Kiefer.
And I'm Jonathan Tyrock, otherwise known as JT.
Yes, I was like, make sure you say JT because that's what I'm going to say for the rest of this.
You know, I thought about that this morning when I was on the way to the office. I was like, I can't just say JT because what if we have new listeners?
I don't think
like,
they're going to think that
JT?
much about it. They're not going to be like, what does JT stand for?
Sarah, you think too small when it comes to the MB2 Underground podcast because
people have said meaner things to me.
we have continued. This is I don't know which number podcast this is now for me as we've gotten a few under our belt, which is great. And the guests continue to become even more and more impressive. And
Listen, we raised the bar around here. I don't know why you're surprised.
No, I'm not. That's what I was trying to explain to you. I think you think that the MB2 Underground is just, at a certain level, and we're not. We're
like below ground, maybe.
I like it. I like a good pun.
Thank you.
But no, with the guests that we have today, I think we are certainly raising the bar. Mm-hmm. He and his organization were incredibly influential and have made a huge mark. There's another pun on MB2. And so I'm excited to introduce the founder of a marketing and communications firm based here in Dallas, Texas, called LDWW. Ken Luce. Ken, welcome to the MB2 Underground.
Well, thank you for having me today.
Yeah,
Underground, above ground, whatever you all decide it is.
You're now above the bar.
Above the bar.
There you go.
Yeah. Is it too early in the podcast to ask you what LDWW stands for?
Based on the intro and the back and forth you all were having, no. Okay, not at all. LDWW actually came from, I didn't want my name on the firm, and
Why?
It's arrogant.
Okay.
And I wanted the business to stand for work, but you still had to have a name.
Love it.
And we were in a meeting, and I was very frustrated about something going on, and I slammed the table, and I said, I want to prove Leo DeRocher was wrong. People looked at me like, what are you talking about?
Like how we're looking at you right now?
Yeah. I mean, if you can't see Sarah, she's giving me a what the hell are you talking about look, and that's exactly right. But Leo DeRocher was a baseball manager in the 60s, and he famously said nice guys finish last because his Chicago Cubs, or actually the Giants at the time, were not very good. But he said nice guys finish last. So,
he's the one that said that?
Yes.
Leo
DeRocher.
Do you get it? Leo DeRocher
was wrong.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm pointing to my chest.
Yes.
Those that aren't watching on YouTube, I'm pointing on my chest because Ken is wearing a LDWW quarter zip, full zip.
We really set out to say in the agency business, which is very hard, that we're only going to take clients we like, clients that are good people, and we're going to try to only hire really good people.
Yeah.
And if they're not, we'll fire them. And we have fired clients who don't treat our people well. And it just led to something. I didn't say anything for years. I finally had a CEO who asked about it, and I told him, and he said, oh, so I'm not an asshole. And I said, no. And we kept going.
That's how I know that you like me, is that I'm here right
That's
now.
right. That's right. No, life is too short to work with people that don't either mesh with the culture, like you said, or just pains. We do a lot. We think very highly of our partner group here, and we protect that at all costs. And so we didn't even get into this before we started taping, but part of what I do here is talk with prospective partners, and that is the number one criteria. It's not, how big is your practice? Where is it located? It is quite literally, how are you as a person, and would you be a good partner, and can we be a good partner? And I think that certainly sounds like it permeates through LDWW.
In the words of Dr. V, dude, just be cool.
Yeah.
Well, and that's exactly right. But look at MB2. If you can't go to some of the doctor events and learn and have fun, then you don't fit in at MB2.
Yep.
I mean, you don't. I mean, you might sell your practice anyway, but you don't. And if you're working with clients and you're working in an open office environment just like here, and you're working with people all day long, if you can't get along and be a good person, then it's not worth it.
So you built your business on the idea that nice guys do not finish last.
Exactly.
And you branded it that way.
Uh-huh.
Okay, interesting. I mean, I've always wondered, because it's a mouthful for me when I've got to say LDWW, the meaning behind it to me is so cool. I love the origin story.
Yeah, it's super cool. The thing I was trying to figure out in my own mind, like, okay, what is it? I'm a big soccer fan. I could talk like at length about that. I know you're into sports. I mean, clearly with the baseball reference there, but
Yeah, go Eagles. Did I get it right?
Oh wow.
Did I get it right?
That was the biggest suck up for Sarah.
Yeah.
Was that wrong? Did I get the wrong team?
I mean,
Maybe.
Maybe for some people, no. But in soccer, they you have wins, losses, and draws. And so as I see that, when you look at a table or you look at a run of most recent games,
losses,
that's
draws,
how
wins,
they
wins.
show it. It's LDWW. You might have the last 4 games. We lost 1, we drew 1, we won 2. And I thought that I was like, I wonder if he's a soccer guy, and that's where it came from. But that's
a
really
cool
cool.
evolution. Loss, draw, win, win.
Yeah.
There have been other things that people said that we're not going to say in this broadcast that we'll say later. But
Okay.
I mean, but ultimately, you got to stand for something. It still is about the work. If people ask about the work and like what we do, then we're in a good place.
Where do you think your philosophy on that type of mentality in a leadership role came from? Because I feel like a lot of times business leaders can get to a point where they're focused on what's driving business more so than culture and the environment. Where do you think that started for you?
I took over an agency 20-some-odd years ago that had a lot of turnover, both in clients and people.
Okay.
And when you have to replace someone, it is more work on the manager. Yeah. I mean, when you really sit back, it's a lot of work. And you've invested a lot of work in people. So what started to try to fix the turnover was, why did we hire them in the first place? But in a competitive industry, which marketing goes through cycles, but has been, you want to keep really good people.
Yeah.
And people either people go to work someplace for dollars only, or they go to work because they like the people, they like the culture, they like to be mentored, they like responsibility. So pick one. And I would much rather be with people I like and mentor people because I have to sell them. Our client team, the MB2, are people.
Yep.
That's what we sell, who do the work. So I just found it was a much better way of managing to take care of high performers and good people versus trying to be at the top of the market. If I want to be at the top of the market, go to work at another firm. If paychecks are what you want, but those people are going to leave every 2 or 3 years too.
Yeah.
Here's a random question for you along the lines of people and hiring people, self-starters, people who are self-motivated. Where do you find those people? Are you hiring folks right out of kids right out of school is what I'll call them? Are you hiring experienced professionals, a mix of the two? And where have you seen the best, I'll say, longevity or results?
And how do you identify them in that process?
The best longevity, and we've been really lucky at 3 different companies that I've managed with people. If you can take somebody even starting as an intern and really grow them. I have 2 business partners today that have worked with me since they were interns. We've worked together for
awesome.
22 years. But right now at LDWW, of the 60 employees, 30-40% started as entry level. And if you give them responsibility and watch them grow, then they're going to manage the same way you want to. Mm-hmm. So to get people as early as possible, to train them, give them responsibility. If somebody has, it's why we only have 3 titles. Most agencies have 12.
Yeah.
Because they can bill. I mean, frankly, it's a billing thing. You can bill for different things. In my world, give them responsibility. Clients want to know who's doing the work anyway. If somebody has 3 years of experience and is kicking ass, then give him or her or him the responsibility and let them go. And they grow and they can manage the way you want and they can take things over. So it's a lot of work.
But you can teach technical skills. It's hard to teach value alignment. If your value alignment is I find value in myself and taking responsibility, then you can teach them what they need to know in order to grow technically.
Exactly. Or if they're good at something else, then put them in that position to succeed and build confidence and go fill the gaps.
We have a doctor that calls them putting people in the right seat on the bus. That there's probably a spot for you on the bus. You may just be in the wrong seat. So how do we get you into the right seat?
Love that.
And that's something I've seen at MB2 for the last 9 years. Being in 3 different departments myself, just talent alignment.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also, I mean, to tell managers, You got to give people 3 strikes. Go back to how you hire people in turnover. You hired somebody for a reason. You got to try 2 or 3 times to put them in the right place. If not, maybe they're not in the right place.
Yeah.
But it's an obligation to give people that responsibility or move them around or find the right seat on the bus if you want your company to have a certain culture.
So in the interview process, how do you identify those people? I mean, you're talking about entry level, so I guess it's maybe lower risk. But for myself in interviews, I think it can be challenging to see. I think I use the metaphor of like being on dating apps. People are putting their best foot forward, their best pictures, their coolest facts, and then you're on date number 4 and they're trying to kill you. It's like, whoa, where did this come from? How do you identify that early on in the process so that you don't have a knife to your throat in 3 dates? That's never happened to me, just to be clear.
I want to host a podcast with Sarah's fiance and get to the bottom of all these answers.
You know, I'm kind of with you now. And I'm a little worried.
I'm coming
Because
back.
y'all are men, y'all don't have to worry about being murdered on dating apps. That's all
Or
I'm
maybe
saying.
maybe it's Sarah's talking about, her dating experiences with guys, but in reality, it's really Sarah holding the knife to the
Either way.
Either way, but it's a good point. But what we try to do is give people real experience. In other words, some of the things that an intern or an entry-level person can do, some people might seem menial, but it might show attention to detail. They might get a Today Show placement. I've had interns get Today Show placements.
Sick.
I mean, if people are showing fortitude, ingenuity, they're organized, can they write? There are a lot of things in our business you can learn at any level, but give them responsibility. No one expects an intern or entry level to be perfect, including clients. So give them experience. Let them get out there.
So with entry level nowadays, you've been at this for a while, right? How long
Thanks
have
for
you
the
been?
reminder.
Oh, come on now. So LDWW, you started that in
2012.
2012. Okay, 2012. But you've been in, I'll say, in marketing for how long?
I've been in marketing longer than most people would admit to.
That's a perfect answer.
No, I've been in marketing really my entire life, and knowing this question might come, I mean, I can go back to college. One of my first jobs, besides washing dishes at a sorority house to get dates, and
I was about to say,
it
that's
was
a
the
good
best
gig.
job I ever had.
Did you get any knives held to your throat on
Did you have a
dates,
uniform
or-
you had to wear?
Yes.
Yes.
I wore a house coat, and the bell would ring, and I would run out and but I got $2 a meal
An icon.
and wash dishes.
Love it.
And dates to all the parties. It was really good. But the real job, I was the first Miller Lite rep on my campus.
Okay.
So when Miller Lite
That's a fun
was
fact.
introduced, it was very new. Light beer was nothing until the early, I will date myself now, 80s. And even then, but Miller sent us to a marketing seminar, learned how to market, but it was your job is to grow market share on campus. What is market? I didn't know what market share was.
Yeah.
When you start with 0, by the way, you can grow market share.
Well, and what are you getting your degree in at this time?
My dad always asked that. I wound up with a political science degree because I didn't take the academic part seriously, but I got very practical experience. Marketing, I did the world's largest donut cake at one time, too. Yes, yeah, I mean, because I was in student government. I had to pass, Sarah.
Yeah.
Look, let's get honest, okay? I had
Well,
to pass.
I love that it's something that had nothing to do with what your career was meant to be, but it stuck with
Absolutely
you.
nothing.
Made
well,
an impact.
Even political science. I mean, the Miller Lite did, and we joke, it just shows generation. I mean, one of the talking points was people can drink more because it has less calories. Okay? Now, couldn't do that today,
I was going to say, that's changed just a bit.
and rightfully so, but we got 30% market share pretty quick.
Sure.
But, I mean, it was little things, too, like you go to the convenience stores on the weekend and you stock the shelves for them. Why? So your product's front and center. It's always full. It was really good, practical experience to ultimately what I was doing. But even political science, the only class that resonated with me, we read Boys on the Bus and by Hunter Thompson. And it was about media being on the bus back in the day when media mattered. And it was fascinating to me that media had this power and people worked with media. And so even then, the one class I did well in was that and Intro to Accounting.
Oh,
That's
what'd you do with that?
In our business, if you can go into, and I tell this to anybody in our business, go take a finance class, go take a marketing class, go take an accounting class, because you have to understand how our clients make money. And so if you can't go into a meeting and the client says, my favorite client was American Airlines for years. He
Shout
made
out.
money by selling butts and seats.
sure.
But if you didn't understand how the airlines made money and you couldn't sit in a meeting with the CEO if they were having financial problems or they had to boost revenue and you couldn't be part of the conversation, you were just another marketing person.
If you can't put it's almost as if you can't put yourself in that person's shoes, not necessarily, I mean, I can't put myself in the CEO of American Airlines shoes, but I can at least understand, all right, what's the purpose of the campaign or what we are trying to do, and how do we actually solve for that? If you don't know what the issue is that you're solving for,
even if you know it, but you don't understand it.
Or even take MB2. Look, if my team didn't understand what MB2 did as a business, how could we brand MB2?
Yeah.
In other words, and I'm not saying our creative director and everybody understand the financial nuances, but Intro to Accounting taught me enough to sit in a meeting where I could say, I know the difference between EBITDA, net profit, and gross profit.
Oh, shit. I got to take an accounting class now.
no, you can just come ask us.
Okay, deal.
You're the one that's been bragging about your accounting background and dating app.
What?
Yes, you. Yeah.
So I
No, don't pick on Sarah.
No, we're not going to pick on Sarah.
She'll clam up.
Yeah, no, we're not going to pick on Sarah. We've kind of gone all over the map. I want to come back to.
You asked me.
No, I know. But you've like, gosh, this is one of the challenges I've had with podcasts. Like, as we're talking, like I have all these things that have popped into my head, and I want to ask you all of them. So I want to come back in just a second to the question that I was going to ask you about.
That you were trying to ask.
Well, about it really and truly is going to be about the mentality of people you hired maybe back, in the 90s versus now. But before we get to that, you mentioned American Airlines. You guys have worked with a ton of organizations. MB2, American Airlines. I printed this off because I wanted to make sure I didn't miss any. Ford, Dean Foods, U.S. Airways, ExxonMobil, Sprint, Dish Network, the Big 12, GM, Omni Hotels, Carnival, Windstar. How is it that you guys are able to do what you do effectively across all of frankly, different industries? Is it because you can view each of those industries generally and say, hey, the problems that exist in American Airlines exist in Carnival Cruises, actually maybe that's too close, in Dean Foods, and you're able to tailor solutions for them? Or is it something else? I'm not a marketing guy, so this is just pure ignorance on my part, but will you talk through a little bit about how you're able to be so flexible
cross-industry support?
Well, and again, it falls into what it is, but let's talk broadly about what marketing is today, and it's been the biggest change in our industry. We can sell today directly to consumers, which 5 to 10 years ago you could not do.
Yeah.
If Sarah's on her infamous dating app.
Which she is not, just to be clear.
But people know. I mean, everybody opts in. Okay, everybody's on websites. The biggest change in our industry is we know what's going on.
Yeah.
We can find the consumer for the product.
Mm-hmm.
And the consumer's educated.
Yes, and the consumer's either educated or they're looking.
Okay.
When I started in the business, people sold, well, if you're on TV, it's worth X. Well, you don't know if somebody did that.
Yep.
At all. I mean, advertising and marketing was built on a very flawed model. If you see an ad 3 times, I'm going to buy the product. So everybody bought TV advertising.
Right.
Or everybody saw something in a newspaper, which you all probably don't even take a newspaper anymore.
What is a newspaper?
Exactly my point. But people, and you have to read it 3 times, then it's passed on, and it was built on all these false metrics. The whole industry today, people should hold us accountable, which agencies have problems doing.
Yeah.
We're responsible for selling products, or fixing a problem. A lot of those were crisis clients or fixing a problem. But when you look at today, MB2 is selling a way of doing business to dentists.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what MB2 does. Casinos sell experience, winning money, gaming. We're selling something.
Gosh, just having fun. I've seen those Windstar. Yeah. I mean, it's so cool to be here. Windstar casinos, for those that are listening that are not local to Texas or Dallas or Oklahoma, It's a casino just across the Texas-Oklahoma border.
That would be at Exit 3 off Highway 35.
To be specific.
Exit 1 is Border Casino, also owned by the Chickasaw Nation. So there you go. You have two options within about 50 minutes of where we are today if you want to go for lunch.
Well, you're talking about marketing is selling or crisis management. Which do you feel like you prefer or are better at or is funner? Trying to solve a problem. Sorry, not crisis management.
I love selling. I mean, I love consumer marketing. I love selling. I love B2B marketing. Have I done a lot of really cool things that someday are going to be in my obituary? Yes, but it was crisis. I mean, people always want to talk about you work for American on 9/11. Yeah, I did.
Or you worked with the FBI on a hostage situation.
And those things are really, but they're very intense.
Yeah.
And we were having the discussion today. We don't work with American today, but we know people that are there after the incident in D.C. When I worked 9/11 and I led a team all over the world, there was no the theme for today should be less age, Ken Luce.
Okay.
There was no internet. Okay. So the news cycle was not every minute. Mm-hmm. And we could manage a story.
Yeah.
We could manage rumors. We could do those things. Today, if you took what happened on Wednesday night, by the time you woke up, if you went to bed before 9 p.m. Eastern, there was 19, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 stories. There were tweets.
Yeah.
There were video.
Oh, yep.
You're managing in a very constant world that also is not factual in many cases.
It's like reactive.
It's reactive. Or is it true or not? Look, just because it's on the internet does not mean it's true.
What?
Yeah. But people think that. People today still do.
But you can
I
go to
know.
Snopes.com and figure out if it's true or not.
Fun fact.
That's what my grandmother would say.
But even cable TV. Look, talk shows and opinion shows are not news.
Yeah.
People think they're news.
Yeah.
So the whole industry has changed. So the real answer to your question is, I don't like crisis communications because of what it entails today,
Yeah.
which is a constant barrage of trying to save your client or their reputation or keep something from getting out.
It's like trying to hold water in your hands, and it just keeps getting filled up, and it just keeps slipping through.
But think it through that way. I mean, you really can't, because if you look at the internet today and people think it's their job to give their opinion or report, it truly is 24 hours a day.
Isn't that what we're doing on this podcast?
What's that?
Thinking that we're giving,
No, we're just
It's
having.
our job.
I mean, I think the internet factor and social media, that is like, that would be a nightmare to have to, try to navigate that all together.
Well,
Well,
or try to tell a CEO or a client that it doesn't matter. In other words, just because JT said it
Yep.
does not mean that 100,000 people are going to say it. I'll use a sports one for you. I had an AD once get very mad at me
What's an
because
AD?
athletic director,
Thank you.
who decided that because the Lakeway, Texas newspaper had a critical article online that he should go respond.
Oh, no.
We spent hours, okay? There were 5 people who read this article.
Yep.
Okay, 5 people who clicked on it. And I finally said, if I had told you to go interview with that paper, what would you have said? He said, I wouldn't do an interview with somebody that small. I said, so why are you wasting my time on 5 people?
Yeah.
But it's because the internet said it. In this case, literally, my wife saw it, and it's real.
Yep.
How do you combat that? I mean, you gave us a very specific example there, but I can see how that would be a major challenge in your field.
Well, let's take the major challenge, and it's just different where we are in a lot of things. I spend a lot of time telling people, ignore it. Mm-hmm. That is not the inclination of people.
No, anxiety is real, and it feels big, even if it's not. And being told to just push it aside can be a hard thing to do.
I mean, somebody asked me today, what would you do, believe it or not, I know who she is, with Blake Lively? I would say I wouldn't respond at all.
Yep.
I wouldn't give any chance to respond to any of this. I wouldn't leak video. I wouldn't. But that's how the game is.
Let it pass.
But why give the other side the ability to put out a video that looks like you did something? just ignore it.
Well, it's like,
not human nature.
Okay, it's like the thing. It's like
Get a promotion. Look what happened.
I know exactly. Senior director of podcast engineering. No, we're glad you're good. So it's like the stories that get buried. You know, I'll go to Batman Begins. Christopher Nolan, the first movie with Christian Bale. You know, Bruce Wayne. I think it was Batman Begins. One of the ones, he burns his house down, right? And it gets pushed to the back of the tabloids. Now it would be a huge story, right? In any day, because it's a billionaire burns his house down. Blah blah blah. Well, it gets pushed to the back page because something else has been bigger and has replaced it by the time that it's printed. And I go back to that a lot, kind of with what you're saying, which is like, okay, if I'm Blake Lively or I'm, you know, there are going to be certain things, right? Certain disasters that cannot go unnoticed or ignored. But I think nowadays we have a tendency to magnify things that are so small that don't need any time spent on them. And all you've done now is validate that, which makes me feel like maybe I should be in marketing.
You should. I mean, you're a podcast host. I wouldn't give that up, but there you go.
I appreciate that. Oh, goodness.
But you talked a little bit about how things have changed, like when you started to direct-to-consumer marketing being a heavy shift. What trends or changes do you see coming in the future that people should be aware of or keep their eye on?
Everybody talks about AI.
Yeah.
And AI is going to replace people. AI is not going to replace people.
Did y'all see that Megan Fox movie on Netflix?
If it's with Megan Fox, I'll probably see it.
Yeah, she's like an AI bot, and it's like a person, and his wife is sick, and so she comes in and does like household chores, and then she starts thinking for herself and trying to like giddy up on the husband. Anyway, y'all should watch it. But that's what I feel like people's AI fear is that Megan Fox is going to be living in your house trying to date your husband.
Really? Okay, I kind of like AI now. No, but you still are going to need people to program AI.
Yeah.
I mean, lost in all of this, people think it's going to replace marketing or it's going to replace analysts or somebody has to give the commands. Somebody has to know what they're doing. Somebody has to know. Now, biggest thing we have right now is a lot of it is not factual.
Yeah.
I mean, what's out there is based on algorithms. So just because AI tells you it's real,
and even
there's
to your
a legal
point
problem.
About like the internet not being all accurate, and if it's information's being sourced from inaccurate sources, then of course what you're getting out of it is going to be inaccurate.
Exactly.
So how do you vet that or understand that? Yeah.
But look at what it can do, which again, there's a lot of cool things. I mean, the Coca-Cola Christmas commercial was AI generated. But
I'm gonna have to go watch that.
But somebody had to tell it what to start generating, tell it what the storyline had to be. You still needed creative directors. You still needed people to put in the commands. You still need people to correct it. There's not tone. There's not other things.
Yeah.
AI's like anything. Did the internet change marketing in the 90s? Yep. We all charged a ton of money to build a website, which now is a commodity. AI is going to be the same thing. It's a commodity, and it's going to change business, but it's going to make us more efficient.
A tool.
It's a tool.
Yeah, I don't think I've mentioned this before, but quantum computing I think is the next. I mean, now that's down the line, but that's where you would have potentially no need for somebody to program.
Am I the only one that doesn't know what quantum computing is?
It's basic. Well, we talk offline about it.
Okay.
It's a lot. That being said, going back to your AI, there's a guy I follow on Instagram, and I think his name is I Am Seth Drums or something, and he prompts AI to make a song about whatever, and then he plays drums behind it, and it's comical. But to your point, he's programming. I mean, he's
can
putting
only do what it can
he's
with the
making
information it
inputs.
has.
So,
But look, jobs will be more efficient. People are just, I mean,
Yeah.
your kids are going to have a different job path than people did. My kids or me.
Yeah.
So speaking of direct-to-consumer marketing, I'm going to throw this in because I still find a ton of humor in this. My wife, she is one of those folks that when she gets an email, a marketing email for a product, let's just say, Restoration Hardware, for instance, right? I don't think it's even called that, RH now. She gets an email and she's like, oh, I need to go buy it. She has this like thing in her brain that just sparks and she's like, I need to go buy this. And I had never met, before we got married, I had never met anybody that was like that. So you talk about the mentality shifting, and it's certainly shifted now. But, you know, we're in our early 40s. And
Speak for yourself.
Well, that's
Oh,
me,
you and your wife.
me and my
Never mind.
wife. Me and my
Continue.
wife, yeah, not you. And I think that we might be the last frontier of folks that saw stuff on TV and was like, oh, that's something that's neat. Oh, that's something we saw it on, you know, the one show that was on ABC after the news or whatever it might be. But I still get a chuckle with the fact that you can direct to consumer, you can send emails, because I get 1,000 emails a day now and I just delete them all. I don't even read them. But there are still people out there that follow the old path.
But when you look at marketing, let's say there's 20 different ways people respond, because we have databases that do this now that we manage for our clients that are constantly updated. Your wife might love email. Somebody else might have a better propensity still with direct mail, believe it or not.
Yep.
Okay. But you might like a text or, oh, I love podcast. Okay.
Yep.
By the way, podcast, let's turn this into a real moneymaker.
Let's go.
Podcasts ultimately are becoming another tool to sell.
Yeah.
Not just advertising, but that validation that is out there is ranking up with people generally a little bit younger than you, JT. But, I mean, okay, Sarah's age.
Thank you.
That are converting based on what they hear on podcasts.
That's right. Yeah.
So, yeah, and every day we're going to know propensity of what we're selling. I can go to you differently, Sarah differently. I can go to everybody differently with a different offer, a different message, or a different mechanism to sell them a product.
With things
It's
changing
creepy,
so
yes.
much. Yeah, like how do you keep up with it? How do you keep up with not only what the new avenues of targeting are, but what is working and what's not working? Like that's so much shifting and adapting and adjusting.
Well, and that's where, again, people are having to learn and do things differently. I mean, take into account service. It used to be get somebody in the newspaper, get somebody in the news. Today, our conversation would be, okay, did we use that tool? Did it work? Oh, look, the algorithm said Sarah went from a 80% liking podcast to 40%. So, oh, but now she's a 90 over here at Instagram ads. So you have to constantly be changing. That's what's so exciting about it. It is creepy.
I love
but
it.
everybody opts in.
Yeah.
Who doesn't opt in?
Right.
Well, one of the things I was on the LDWW website earlier today, and one of the things I love.
That'd be LDWW.co. Okay, go ahead.
Yep.
Shout out.
One of the things that I love is that you guys highlight that you are tracking KPI. Like there are things that you're tracking, and you are actually basing what you all are doing on results or tracking what you're doing to determine whether or not those results are to be had. One of the things I see a lot when we talk with prospective partners is the shotgun marketing approach. Hey, I'm going to do a SEO. I'm going to do Google AdWords. I'm going to do direct to consumer print. I'm going to
It's trying to predict human behavior, which is a really hard thing to do. But if you can do it and do it well based off of a track record, a lot of these, I mean, I'm not even just going to say dentists, but business owners aren't used to or comfortable with tracking human behavior.
Well, it's that they throw a bunch of stuff up against the wall to see what sticks, and something sticks somewhere, but they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And so what they do is they just continue to throw the dollars, in that case, at all of the things. Is there something that you see in organizations, or maybe it was even a shift in your organization as you guys grew, to really focus on results, and how did you do that? Or maybe said differently, how could somebody listening to this podcast say, oh, I should be looking a little bit deeper, and how do I look a little bit deeper into what is coming back into my practice, organization, firm, company? what have you.
You threw a lot of different questions in.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to get better at that. I
No,
promise.
But let's take it from if you're a dentist or client or all the tools today, the evolution in the last year because of AI and because of better computing and data is we literally with our data, and there are others that can do it, updates daily, nightly, hourly on your propensity to do something and react with something. If you're not looking at it constantly, either with an agency partner or internal, then you are going to waste money ultimately.
Gonna
You
miss
might
the
think
trends.
SEO works today, but does it 6 months? Does it tomorrow? You
Yep.
no, but
Pepper
I mean,
Pat knows.
but if you're not constantly looking and updating and not chasing a trend and being disciplined about what really works, then you are going to waste money.
Yeah.
MB2's been very disciplined on their end at how they market.
Yep.
It's hard to be disciplined, especially when so-and-so's doing this cool thing over here, or your boss comes in and flops something on your desk and says, why aren't we doing this thing?
The shiny object.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's hard. But it also, your question on the industry and trends, let's be real honest, and I've failed several companies, again, for not being disciplined, so that's easy for me to say. But in our business, you really only, and we're in the client service business, you only get fired for 3 reasons. I've now said 4. Client runs out of money you can't control. You might have a change in client, okay? But basically, you either don't get results or you have bad client service. So we're in a pretty simple business, and results are what the client needs.
Mm-hmm.
So we know why people might let go of us over time.
Mm-hmm.
We're obviously good people. They wouldn't let go of us for that.
Sure.
But if you're not doing the simple things and you're not getting results, so with all this data, we talk all the time, if we don't know how we're doing, it's our fault.
Right.
So it's a big shift in the industry, and people have run from it because they'll say, well, I can't impact 100% that somebody bought something.
Yeah.
Okay, what if it's 90%? You did impact it.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know the path, and it's hard.
I read a book years ago now, but there was a little anecdotal story in the book, and there was this man walking along the beach, and I guess there were starfish or something had been this is early in the morning, had washed up on the beach, a bunch of fish or starfish or something, and he's walking in throwing. I mean, we're talking thousands across this beach. He walked up and he'd pick one up and throw it back in the ocean, He just kind of walked down the beach doing that. And there was a guy that came up to him and said, hey, you can't impact all of these all of these fish. You can't save them all. He's like, yep, but I could save that one, and I can impact that one, and I can impact that one. And I think that to me, what you just said resonates. It's like, hey, 100% shouldn't be the goal, because human nature is not like we just everybody's different. And so how can we do our best in each situation and scenario to get the maximum result? And so that's an interesting. It's just an interesting approach.
I think that's what I loved about
mentality.
marketing. It's like the data part of it, because it feels like you are trying to capture something that is so, I don't know, it can be ambiguous at times. So being able to put data to human behavior, I think, is really cool. And
and dynamic. Like, it just moves. Again, from a non-marketing brain, I'm doing a lot of thinking out loud right now, but it's just so cool. I mean, it's so cool to hear you talk about this stuff because you've done it for so long.
You keep going to, I've done it for so long. Can you find another way of saying it?
Okay, how about this?
You're so new
You've
to it.
been
You're
so
such a young buck.
successful.
I'm seasoned.
You're seasoned. You have been so successful with marketing, brand management, communications, and it really shows. It's just really cool. I've got
one last question.
Oh man, we could go a long time with Ken, but I want to ask you.
Well, then I don't have to go back to work or turn on my phone. So let's go as long as you want.
I mean, I'm here for it. Maybe an off the beaten path, non-business question. Do you have any business questions you would like to ask?
I just wanted to hear more about the FBI hostage situation.
That's where I was going to go with this.
Okay, sick.
Okay, so we didn't prep for this, but you had mentioned, I think, to Brittany that there was some sort of hostage negotiation in Yemen that
Yeah, what happened?
you were involved in. You've got to
Tell
give
us.
us the details because
What happened?
I got to know.
We got to know.
Lesson here, don't fill out the survey for Brittany or anybody to read, or you might get asked about it. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I was just bullshitting my way through the whole process, if you want to know the truth.
That's how we get the good stuff.
In 2017, 2018, I don't remember, I got a call from a good friend who said, I'm referring a CEO to you. He's in New Orleans. He's going to call you. Answer the phone.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'd done crisis fine. I was in D.C. I'm like, whatever. And he said, okay, Ken, you're hired. That's how he started the conversation. Renee recommended you. You're hired. I said, okay. He said, several of our employees are being held hostage in Yemen.
Oh.
And we need to, one, keep it quiet or we're afraid they'll get killed. But more importantly, can you help us?
Can I just ask where you are taking this call? Because I can't imagine like.
I know exactly where I was. I was at an event at the press club in Washington, D.C., checking in reporters and stepped away to take the call from Greg Rusevich. And I'm like, I got off the phone and a couple of my colleagues said, what was that? I said, do you know anything about Yemen? And she said, no. I said, well, I do from Brad Thor books. This is true. I know from reading, I read books.
Sure.
Okay, you probably do audiobooks. But that's what I know about Houthis and the conflict in Yemen is from reading Brad Thor books. So I said, yeah, I know a lot about Yemen, Mr. Rusevich. And
Yeah.
Well, we go through this, and part of the job was keeping it quiet, and the Washington Post also had hostages in Yemen at the time. So they agreed to keep it quiet. So that part actually wound up being easy. But one day I get a call, and it was one of the FBI hostage negotiators.
What year was this?
17 or 18.
Oh, 17. Sorry.
I don't.
You said that.
Sometime pre-COVID.
Is that like the new BCAD? Is like pre-COVID?
If you don't want to age yourself, you just say pre-COVID.
Right.
There's a reason. There's a reason I ask. There's a book that I've read called "Never Split the Difference," and it's written by a guy named Chris Voss, and he used to be the FBI's lead international hostage negotiator. And I was just trying to say, okay, well, what are the odds that it was him? But I don't think it would have been him in 17 or 18.
But
it's a great book, by the way.
But her point was, she said, Ken, I need your help.
Oh, we love a female hostage negotiator.
This was, I mean, again, it was the team, and she was like, Ken, I want your help. I need to, one, be media trained, because when we get, and I won't use his name, out, we're going to get questions. I want to know how to answer them. I said, oh, that part's easy.
Okay.
And she said, but this will help me in hostage negotiations. Mm-hmm. I'm like, come on. I don't know. I mean, I was literal. I don't know how I can help you. And we spent several hours on media type, which was easy, but then she kept asking questions that she would say when they were negotiating or talking to government officials or doing other things. I learned a lot, but it's the same skill. It's no different than a presentation. It's listen. And again, the thing we went through a lot with her was let people talk.
Yep.
And the hardest thing for people to do in media training is to say, answer the question and be quiet.
And that's it. Yep.
That's so interesting.
But it was fascinating. And actually, when he got out,
so it was a success.
This one was there one later that was not, but it was what we really learned, and I told Brittany, was very fascinating to me that over there they, because of the conflict with U.S. in general, the Houthis in particular would look at social media of people that were over there, and they were over there literally taking logistics.
Okay.
But because most of these people, and I knew several that had been in the service before, their social pages were them in uniform or them with guns or them being macho. And so the biggest lesson for going forward for these two companies we worked with was anybody who goes to the Middle East or someplace that doesn't like Americans, you need to scrub your social media page first because it's a history.
That's so
that was the lesson there, but it was
crazy.
fascinating. But thanks to Brad Thor, I know enough about the Houthis to have gone through 9 months of representing a hostage in Yemen.
That's
That's
awesome.
so cool.
Well, if you're into Brad Thor, we can talk offline.
Read every Brad Thor book.
I've got some books that I do listen to audiobooks, but I've got a few books that you might enjoy. But
Well, this has been fascinating. Thank you for letting us end on a hostage negotiation story.
Such an uplifting moment for the day.
it is. Well, hey, it was a successful one, which is uplifting, right?
Yeah.
It was.
Is there anything we didn't talk about that you wanted to touch on before we wrapped up?
I don't think, unless you all have something. Again, this was great for me to, one, get out of the office and come to MB2 and
To
spend
turn
time with
yourself
you
on
all.
off?
Yes, I did.
Yep.
And I'm not going to turn it back on. I'm just going to say I forgot.
I forgot.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. Well, Ken, we appreciate you coming. As Sarah mentioned, I could sit here and do another 30 minutes or an hour with you because I have a ton still that I'd love to ask. But you know what? We'll maybe save that for another time, perhaps in the future, where you
Anytime
can
or
turn
lunch.
the phone off or lunch. That'd be great. That'd be great. Well, that being said, MB2 Underground, this is, here we are. We're at the end of another episode. We appreciate everybody that tunes in on all the different platforms, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and we will look forward to talking to you guys next time.
See ya.
Thanks again.